Very good. Well, thank you, Ryan and Randy, for giving us the opportunity to showcase this upcoming pretty major overhaul to our situation reports that will be coming over the next few months there, as indicated on the rollout timeline there on the right-hand side of the slide. Testing continues at a handful of offices even this week, with a tech order that's in the finalization process and slated to be rolled out to central region offices again sometime in the first half of April. And then thereafter, the FOs will be able to start looking through some of their training and documentations for both the configurers and the forecasters with the rollout. So, but before we really get kind of going deep into this, into the talk, I wanted to really introduce the folks responsible for the heavy lifting of this project, starting really at the top with Corey Martin. Corey was the primary developer and scripter within the Google suite, and I'll talk a little bit more about kind of how this whole process is going to work and why the Google slide and scripting was so integral to giving this project some legs. Zach Harris is our Graphy DSS software subject matter expert. The entire Central Region technical work group has been really important in testing the process, which has got a lot of moving parts technically in the moving of files through and out of AWIPS and then backwards when we push our products back that direction. But most specifically, I wanted to highlight the work of Jerry and Dave, who both were really integral in making the project become much more robust in its capabilities. And then the IDSS team has been important in shaping the project details, the ideas, and specifically the work of Jake Beitlich with the development of training materials that will accompany the rollout when we get there. So based on the IDSS goals and our current Central Region roadmap, we really built out the objectives of what this project would eventually become. Of course, they've kind of changed and shaped over the past few months and past few years with the COVID situation developing, but they really boil down to these three objectives. And the first one is to improve on the efficiency of our core partner IDSS, which of course are our email blasts and webinars, as well as our non-core partner products, which encompass both social media and even into our weather stories, though not specifically automated with this change. We're hoping to build out some of the potential automation with weather stories down the road. Secondly, we wanted to leverage our cloud-based solution to improve our message consistency and comprehensiveness through our internal collaboration. This applies for remote support, like where many of us are in today, likely on telework. It works for service backup situations, state level collaboration for state level products, and even collaboration within the same office. This in-office versatility was really identified as a success by the Boulder office during the snow event that occurred there probably about 10 days ago, where they were able to collaborate even in office on crafting the appropriate message to get out to the public. Boulder also identified another a good way to use this project, and it was to leverage the MAS program, which is the Multimedia Assistance in Spanish, after a request of a Spanish version from their emergency manager. They were easily to share the link of the Google slide packet, and they were able to create a Spanish version very seamlessly and efficiently. Another benefit about leveraging that cloud-based process is the ability that we'll have to iterate easily. You know, this is the first go at this project, this transition to a cloud-based IDSS developer, but it's not going to be our last. It's really building the foundation of how we can use cloud-based development in delivering most effectively and efficiently to our core partners. And that iteration that we'll likely see out of that will be able to really hone in on the best practices found, say, out in an office like Riverton, and that can easily be shared with an office of Northern Indiana or vice versa across the region. So we thoroughly expect this to grow from here, and that's what gives us really kind of excitement about where this project can go. And finally, we wanted to unlock the forecaster time. We know there's a lot of inefficiencies in the IDSS production process, and there's a lot of overlap that occurs from the weather story to social media content to webinars and the legacy situation reports. But it's critical that we don't water down the content of our core partner products, and we really took that into account with this project. So, but before we talk about the reason for change, let's take a moment to reflect on where we've been with that situation report. The initial rollout occurred already back in early 2018. I can't believe it's been that long. But with the automated image guidance and templates updates that were fielded back in late 2018, and with the final update, it really didn't occur until late 2019 when the thumbnail became optional on our top news page based on the FO discretion. This iteration is going to maintain that thumbnail option. That's not going to change, so that'll be at the WFO's discretion on whether or not to put the thumbnail up for the what we used to refer to as a situation report. So let's take a look for a moment of how our messaging resources are divided up right now. Recall on our trigger chart, our primary messaging focus is on social media in the service level 4. A situation report is optional for service level 3, but required for service level 2. Whereas a webinar and slides are required for a level 1, but only optional for that level 2. It's clear that as customer demands increase, so too do our redundancies. Because while yes, everything that we post to social media isn't core partner content, some of it certainly is. And while yes, everything that we put into the webinar isn't made for a sit rep, certainly some of it is. And the idea of this project is really trying to hone in on the streamlining of that redundancy that exists in those products. So first things first, the name change. The name situation report that we've all come to know and love will officially be retired with this next iteration. Why? Well, the terminology conflicted with how our EM partners use the term situation report. Welcome the DSS packet, and the DSS packet will be the main product mechanism that we use in our slide creation. It'll provide those foundational graphics, that consistent redundancy that we're really trying to get to, that can feed a variety of mediums as dictated by that trigger chart designation. This name was primarily for internal purposes, so it allows flexibility on how you phrase this externally. We'll talk about some of the improvements on the messaging. The title slide gives us some room for our messaging, really the main message of the day, not using the Park Place real estate on the top of our slide for the word situation report. In order to fully leverage that cloud-based collaboration, however, we had to kind of come up with something that's going to be the engine that creates those DSS packets, and that's the Central Region IDSS Builder. That's going to be the Google slide scripting that allows us to be able to create that DSS packet, and in turn, the way that we disseminate our information to our partners, both in a IDSS framework and also our non-IDSS products such as social media and weather stories. So here's a kind of a cross section of our schematic of the DSS packet workflow. I realize I'm not an electronic engineer as I started to create this slide, but bear with me a little bit on how this looks and how it's used. The left-hand side is really that it's outlined there in yellow refers to the automated process of creating the images. So we start with our gridded forecast database, which provides the foundation of really all of our IDSS that we do. And from there, we're leveraging the Graphy DSS software. The reason is that that software was identified as one of 2 national unified graphic generators. So we wanted to make the transition with that in mind. Additionally, by using Graph IDSS, there's no need to wait for the grids to get directly into the NDFD, which, as we all know, when we're trying to create the DSS packets or the situation reports or the webinars, time is of the essence to get that information in there. Now there are 4 ways to request images from Graph IDSS. The first is a GFE procedure called DSS Template Builder. That was developed by Jerry Wiedenfeld in Milwaukee. This works from within GFE and creates images with the Graph IDSS software. The process is recommended for in-office image creation. The second is really kind of something that we weren't expecting as we went down this road, and really Jerry was able to develop really on its own, and it's a fantastic tool for remote support. But it's essentially the DSS Template Builder remote driven by a Google form, which enables the creation of images while on remote support. So in that instance, there's no need to bother the WFO to run. Of course, you'll want to confirm that the grids are saved and well collaborated before you did that remotely. The third method is once there is good familiarity within the Graph IDSS software at your office, and I suspect there'll be some growing pains and some learning that'll take place once that gets installed after that tech order is released at the offices. But within Graph IDSS, there's these batch job or procedure-like scripts, think of that from GFE, that can be set up within the software to request images in one fell swoop. You can set it up to develop multiple images and create multiple images at one time. And it provides the most customizable options within that graphics software. And finally, manually, yes, you can still create a one-off image within Graph IDSS or any other graphics generator to convey your message. This is just the automated process, okay? You can still insert image or copy and paste or however you want to do it. We're not tying the hands of offices to create it in one way, and it's got to look a certain way when it comes to the images. You still have the flexibility to convey the message as you see fit. So once the images are requested, Graph IDSS works its magic and sends them to 2 places: your office LAN and to your CMS. And that process, of course, will take probably 5 to 10 minutes in order to get it up to the CMS. So there is a little bit of a wait. We are hopeful that there may be another method that will be quicker in that transmission, but that will not be with initial rollout. So it'll go to 2 spots, the CMS and your office LAN. Now let's shift over to the right-hand side, the production side of what the IDSS Builder will look like. Outlined here in red. From Google Slides, you'll fire up your presentation, and the easy-to-use GUI will be able to automatically ingest and begin creating those foundational graphics for your DSS packet. Graphics, once again, can come from the images that you just created in Graph IDSS or other web-based sources, such as Outlooks from our national centers, some of the prob messaging tools that are out there, some safety infographics. Basically, anything that has a hyperlink is able to be automated within the IDSS Builder. Once the DSS packet is created, you can then decide which slides fit your various IDSS and non-IDSS products. And the DSS packet can be saved as a PDF and included for email blast to your partners. You can save a couple of pings for inclusion in social media or weather stories, though again, that process is not automated out of the IDSS Builder in the cloud at this point, but you can still save those and put them into your social media channels and weather stories manually. So in order to make a change like this effective across multiple platforms, we needed 2 things. And one is a common request that came through the Central Region IDSS DSS team for the last few years, and that's the landscape option of the now DSS packet. That was important in order to work seamlessly with our webinars that we conduct, right, when we're displaying them on the screen. We also needed a new template design, one that we could be proud of, that we could put onto our social media channels as well. Of course, the initial rollout of the situation report was portrait, and we wanted to make a kind of redesign, so we were able to put that out on social media as well. We've done both with this iteration. The landscape was that versatility across all platforms, and but we still have the option of the portrait for those state level supports for the states that are taller than they are wide. And the new design was created and coordinated with the Central Region graphics gurus, and it's actually currently being evaluated for adoption at the PMO level as well. So again, really good work by those that have been involved in that process. So let's step through a little of what the user interface in Google Slides will look like. Every office will have their own Google Slide file set up with location and state automatically ingested upon configuration into the lower right-hand corner of the slide. At the top here, you can see the CR IDSS Builder option. Once clicked, it'll open a drop-down menu with a slew of additional options that include starting a new briefing packet, which is recommended again only once during the event at the beginning, and you can iterate on that as you go through the event. We don't recommend doing that every time. It gives you an option for a null briefing if you want to update that static link on our website. So if somebody, for whatever reason, bookmarked that and you wanted to ensure that there wasn't any old data that exists on it, there's an option there. There's a PDF archive with a couple new visualization tools that we'll talk about here in a moment. There's a link to the Google form to request images remotely that I talked about earlier, that one that Jerry developed in Milwaukee, the DSS Template Builder remote, as well as easy ways to update timestamps, insert new slides. There's some final checks that we'll go through and ensure that the bars and asterisks on the top there are all edited in the slide deck. And then there's some help and trouble ticket and request options there at the bottom as well. But for this demonstration, we'll click on the top, the IDSS Briefing Creator GUI. The GUI will open there on the right-hand side to provide a variety of image ingestion and text stencil options that you can use. You're not tied to them. We do want to keep the message of the day, some of those same themes that we had from the initial rollout. But on subsequent slides, you can pretty much free up your text stencil options, and we'll undoubtedly be adding to these as we come over the next few months with recommendations fielded from the offices. Additionally, you'll notice a method used to upload to CMS should your office desire to continue with those thumbnails, and the file drop will drop into an archive PDF folder for email dissemination as well. So let's talk about one of these new visualization options called the hazards matrix that I mentioned on the earlier GUI. This easy to use GUI is configurable with a default or custom cities and locations, number of columns, start day and time, along with a desired time step. Once the table is created, the impact level can simply be selected and highlighted from the easy to use GUI. And just for reference, the colors that we use we're taking off of the GHWO. So again, to promote some of that consistent messaging that we're doing on that page as well. We used this for the first time at the Des Moines office in late December of last year, and there's really two ways to take away whether or not a graphic is good. One is positive comments on social media, of course, and I included those examples there on the right-hand side. I also grabbed a snapshot from 9 News out of the Denver market from that snowstorm a couple of weeks ago. and they basically grabbed it and uploaded it with tagging the Boulder office. So I thought that was a very positive display of appreciation when it comes to the quality of that image. So pretty excited about where that's going to go, how it looks, and we certainly wanted to open that up for encouragement for offices to use. This is the type of examples, though, that undoubtedly every office has their own best practices, their own partners that said, hey, this is good, we like this. We would love to incorporate them so that all offices can message to our partners in an efficient and effective manner and learn from those lessons from all the offices across the board. So additional visualization tool includes the forecast confidence, which once again is fed by an easy to use GUI. Want to emphasize though that offices again aren't limited to these tools. You'll have your own and you'll be able to craft your message how you see fit. The non-change list is much smaller than what I talked about in the first part of this presentation, and includes all the required content that was identified during the first rollout of the then situation reports. An important note though, offices don't have to include these required topics in an all text slide. Instead, these topics are required to be covered in one way, shape, or form in the product. And that, again, is at the discretion of the office. I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding of the last rollout of that all text slide and enforcing offices to use that. That's not the case. We want to have the flexibility to message to our partners as effectively as we can. Your local office's dissemination methods also aren't changing. So if you use the Google Groups, that process is going to stay the same. If you use Iris, that process is going to stay the same. So that process is going to be, when it comes to email blasts, is going to be the same. And there'll be no changes to the regional triggers with this initial rollout either. So I really want to, as I wrap up here, emphasize that this will be an iterative process. It's not going to be perfect right out of the gate. We want to make this better with each upgrade to it. Again, where all the best practices can be integrated and shared with each other. If you have trouble ticket or feature requests, please submit them via the Google form. That will come out with general information, and the IDSS Builder team can be, or the IDSS team can be reached there via the email on the slide with any specific questions. So with that, I appreciate everybody's attention today, and I'll pass it back to Ryan and Randy and entertain any questions if there are any.